To enhance their European ambitions against Celta Vigo. Villa took control early on in the game through a Julian Joachim goal, enough to earn them a vital away win. Paul Newman, BBC News.
And the main news again tonight, the Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi says he has evidence that British intelligence has tried to murder him. That's it. That's all from the newsroom. Good night.
Good evening. The chairman of the Metropolitan Police Federation has tonight described the Lawrence inquiry as a disaster for the force. Speaking at the Federation's conference, Glenn Smythe criticised Police Commissioner Sir Paul Condon for lack of leadership and failing to defend his force against allegations of racism. Our Home Affairs correspondent Penny Root reports from the meeting.
The Metropolitan Police Commissioner had been billed as Daniel, entering the Lion's Den to face angry officers dispirited by allegations of corruption and racism. In the event, the new chairman of the Metropolitan Police Federation didn't savage the boss, though he did spell out the impact of the Lawrence inquiry on morale.
Decent officers have had their reputations torn to shreds by accusations of racism and even corruption. This plumbed the depths when the off-duty constable, the first to arrive on the scene, who acted as a good Samaritan and tried to help Stephen Lawrence, was himself castigated as a racist during questioning that went beyond the bounds of common decency.
Rank-and-file officers leaving the meeting agreed it had been low-key and backed the new chairman.
I thought Glenn Smythe was brilliant on his first major speech. He was excellent, and he'll do us proud in the future. Good luck to him.
Much better meeting this year, much more organised.
Yes, there are individual racists in the police, which none of us want, but we do not have institutionalised racism. It just is not the case in the Metropolitan Police Service.
Penny Root, Newsroom South East in central London.
A chemical company currently based in Kent is about to become the first employer in the country to offer cash to its staff if they don't drive to work. Pfizer says the policy will be introduced to promote greener commuting when the company moves to its headquarters in Surrey. Our transport correspondent Tom Simons reports.
Derek Chandler drives 5 miles to work at Pfizer in Sandwich every day, like many of his colleagues. In fact, he runs the company's fleet of cars. But when Pfizer moves to a new site near Reigate in Surrey, it may well be worth leaving his car at home. The company is providing few parking spaces at its new headquarters. Instead, staff will be offered cash, perhaps up to £1,000, not to drive. Those who don't take up the offer will have to pay to park.
Business has a role to play in terms of working within government and encouraging government and policy to see if we can overcome these problems that clearly we can see or hear from not far away.
Ironically, Pfizer's new base is right next to the M25. The policy is unlikely to have a visible impact on congestion, but Pfizer does want to set an example. In fact, a growing number of employers are offering incentives for greener commuting, like free travel cards, but none has so far gone as far as Pfizer. Tom Simons, Newsroom South East.
And that's it. We're back in Business Breakfast tomorrow morning, and don't forget there's South East news around the clock on CFlex page 160.
Good evening to you. There will only be a few people that appreciate the heavy seas starting to develop, perhaps the surfers. Good news for surfers. The surf is now up, but certainly the winds continuing to whip the seas into a frenzy both tonight and through tomorrow. And with the strength of the wind, I think we're going to see some heavy rain being driven in as well. Now then, let's have a look at the wind strength and direction, because it's going to be up at around 60 miles an hour at times, but also, as you can see from our radar picture, it's going to be pretty wet as well. Now, some of that rain is heavy, is intense, and if you're a late-night driver, it is making for some pretty awful conditions on some of those roads. A lot of cloud blanketing the British Isles, not much in the way of brightness, but the good news is it will be a mild night, but we're going to keep the wind, and that wind is going to be a feature both tonight and tomorrow, with those gusts up at around 60 miles an hour. Now, there is some heavy rain now approaching Cornwall into Somerset and Wiltshire later through the night. Also across the western fringes of Wales, some heavier bursts here. And again up across the Irish Sea and into Northern Ireland, perhaps another belt of rain moving through. So we're not out of the woods yet for Northern Ireland. There could be some more heavy rain in the next few hours. So heavy rain affecting Scotland, western parts of Wales and England, also Northern Ireland, giving some local flood conditions, and also, as I mentioned, some pretty awful driving conditions. Well, this is the culprit, an area of low pressure, throwing a whole bunch of fronts across us, bringing that rain. It will move out the way quite swiftly through tomorrow. There is another system following in behind, so we are going to see another belt of rain arrive. But the main area of rain will move through. It will bring quite a mild night to us, 14 in some of these western areas. That's the lowest temperature for tonight, a frost-free night. And then to start the day tomorrow morning, we're going to see quite a bit of clouds still around in some of these southeastern areas, moving out the way. Showers to follow in behind, but a bit of brightness in between. And then perhaps some more persistent rain getting back into Northern Ireland and western Scotland through the afternoon. But at the same time, a little bit of sunshine coming through in those sheltered areas away from the coast, and here temperatures up at around 17, 18, maybe even 19 degrees. Thursday's forecast sees the weather front in the south still hanging around, so perhaps some more persistent rain here. Elsewhere, a few showers and still very windy. Have a good evening. Bye for now.
Dearly beloved.
George.
I can't live on my pie.
Osborne.
Have you no conscience? We are gathered together here in the sight of God.
Son.
I'll have no lame duck's daughter in this family, sir.
Soldier and seducer.
Do you remember putting your hands round her waist and twirling her round and calling her your dearest diddle diddle darling?
Vanity Fair, coming in November to BBC1.
I'm cheating on my husband with a man whose ambition is to be more like him.
What are you, Tom? A cop pretending to be a villain or a villain pretending to be a cop?
A girl leaves your stable, she seems to attract violence.
She needed me.
She needed anyone who could fund her next fix.
Paying the price of forbidden love.
Just because you're getting away with it doesn't mean you're invisible.
Undercover Heart, Thursday at 9:30 on BBC1.
Danger Underwater now on BBC1, the first of tonight's naval movies, a thriller with Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin, The Hunt for Red October.